Hello, my name is Fred Mackaman. I'm a Christian since 8 years old. God called me to His church when I was 70 years old. That church is a Holy Catholic church originated by Jesus with St. Peter, and it's been that way ever since. But He called me to His church, and that's a long story. All my stories are long. I'll try to truncate this story to something a little more reasonable, though, just about 10 or 12, 15 minutes. This is an intro to a book that was just published that God wrote. He gives me words. I pray the rosary. He gives me thoughts and words. I immediately go to my computer, sit down, and take dictation. He told me when he first called me, my mission was as a scribe and a messenger. And he's usually big time for those scribe messengers. He's just beginning to use me. But there are many files that I have, and he's giving those files to be published to get the word out there. And these words are words of the modern world, not words directly from the Bible, but this message is exactly the same as from the Bible. So there's no difference there, but any 7-year-old should be able to read and understand this. So that's what this is for, and it's been quite an experience for me. But the title of the book is A World in Which We Live. And I'd just like to read you the intro and to that book. We did not choose the world we live in. We may try to change it, or at least influence it to gain advantage for ourselves or for humanity. God created this world and He is in charge. Only God can change it. There's nothing that happens that God does not cause to happen or allow it to happen for His purposes. Everything He does, some good comes from it. But we do not, like it's in Scripture, we do not think like He does, and He does not think like we do. He knows everything. We know very, very little. So we tend to judge Him and make our decisions based upon what little we know, but He makes his decision based on everything, and He controls all the factors. So that's why we must trust in Him, like the picture says at the bottom, to trust in Jesus. Yet God gave us free will, so we do have the capability to influence outcomes. When we make errors which interfere with His plans for us, He does change outcomes. In other words, if we make something that's really going to change His plan where He cannot adjust for it, He will adjust for it to make sure that His final plan comes true. He is in charge of everything. But we have free will, and the reason that we have free will, because only love that's based on free will is not true love. He created the angels, but they cannot love Him like we do because they do not have free will. They're programmed to do His will and His will only. He would like to have us do that freely of our own choice because of love of Him as He loves us. We are on this earth to learn and to grow to be like God so that we may become like Him, to be qualified for heaven. At the end of our individual lives, we will still require His grace and His mercy to make up for the small bit that we still lack to take this journey. We discuss some of the challenges we are given and the one answer to overcome them: God and His love for us, His children. Who am I? My name is Fred Mackaman, and I was nominated by our God to be a scribe and messenger for Him. I am one of many who serve at God's pleasure for His purposes. My first knowledge of this assignment came to me as I was in adoration of my Lord Jesus, which is observing Him either in an exposed or in the tabernacle. It's still all the same. He is in there, and He showed that to me. Every story I have is a long story, so I won't go into that now. This was a favorite pastime of mine, the adoration. And it began with a single idea. In the time ahead, it was developed and fleshed out when I sat down at my computer. The words were and are given to me. They do not come from me. I am not allowed to change or modify them in the least. Once I was given a word that I had never heard. I looked it up, and it was a perfect word for the passage being written. Basically, what I do, I'm a scribe. I take dictations. When praying the rosary, after a short period of time and during adoration, I was told, use the power of the rosary. I began to pray the rosary daily. While praying the first decade of the day, I was frequently given an idea to expand into a writing. I discovered that I had to stop immediately and go to my computer to develop this idea. Otherwise, the idea was lost. I am not allowed the privilege of changing a single word. Interestingly, the title is given to me before any words are given. In other words, he knows the whole passage is going to dictate to me, so he gives me the title of it, then he dictates the words. And it all makes a lot of sense. It's also powerful. The message is always so powerful. As you will find, the writings are basically the principles which Jesus taught while here on earth, netted out to the basic teachings, all taken together. Additionally, there are elements of the prophecy included. Everything happens for a purpose, His purpose. Every event that occurs is for a purpose, God's planned purpose. We do not understand the why nor the reason. This is of no importance. God is in charge of everything that happens. He is always in control. He either makes it happen or allows it to occur for His purpose. We do not understand, but that is of no consequence. We do not think as God does, and He does not think as we do. Out of every event that results in disastrous results, He makes some good come from it. Our destiny. I've heard it said there are three types of people. There are those who make things happen. There are those who watch what happens, and those who wonder what happened. To some extent, we may choose which group to place ourselves into, but typically we allow ourselves to drift from one of these three groups. We take the easy way and drift along life's path, taking each experience as it comes by. Actually, everything in life is a process. This process consists of a continual series of situations which require decisions. Day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute, events occur in our lives which require us to make determinations as to how we want to proceed. In other words, free will, our choice. Some of these we regard as problems which require resolutions, and others may be just a simple decision as to what do we wish to do. And remember, a no decision or ignoring the entire question is a decision. Each and every decision results in our direction and progress in life. These are the steps along the way which describe our path in life and our ultimate destination. Every decision we make moves us to the next step in our lives. And where those steps lead to is where we ultimately end. We choose our life based upon the individual decisions which we make. Many complain they have no time or not enough time to do the right thing. My response is that life is very fair. We each have exactly the same amount of time. We have 24/7 hours to do as we wish. How we choose to prioritize and use our time is our own decision. If we do not choose how we want to prioritize our activities, the world will choose it for us by the very nature of existence. The real question is what path do we choose to travel in life, and for what reasons? The human race has been struggling with this since the beginning. I believe the answer is very simple. We know in our heart what the right thing to do consists of in every situation. However, in our flawed, selfish humanity, we honor our own needs, wants, and desires over those of the rest of humanity. This basic fact is a source of all of our disagreements, conflicts, and wars. Some may argue that there are exceptions to this. They are right. There are always exceptions for every rule. Statisticians call these outliers to the normal distribution of society. Why don't we do the right thing if we know all of this? The answer is we want fairness in our society, but we want just a small edge. 10% advantage would suffice. That's what we found in studies that have been conducted by psychologists and others. Studies have shown this number is essentially correct. I have asked the question over the years, what drives inflation? Where does it start? I finally discovered this human trait is the main factor. Everyone wants that little edge. Then I would be happy. I'd be satisfied. That never occurs. Even the wealthiest people in the world, they never have quite enough, just a little bit more over my competition. We all have an inner self. Call it the subconscious, if you will. It is like a second person within us. It is a second voice. It is powerful. It is a power within us. That is, if we listen to it and allow it to influence us. It drives our fundamental urges, but is also our check on our own conscious desires. It knows the right thing to do in every circumstance. If we listen and heed, we will avoid many problems and will be a positive force within society. Culture is the essence of society. While the society in which we live is alive and changing constantly as to content, morals, and mores, what are the elements which cause these changes? Our society may be thought of as a giant bread dough which contains yeast from its environment. The natural yeast in the air continually adds to and modifies the yeast in the dough, therefore changing the overall flavor of the bread. Societies which want to try to preserve their heritage and carefully restrict who they allow into their midst in order to maintain the integrity and sameness of the behavior, just as a well-known sourdough bread is protected from natural yeast in the local area. This principle is well understood and accepted for bread, but does it have the same rationale and applicability for society? Unrestricted changes in society may be allowed to progress without regard to its effects on the overall good of its societal group. Of course, this raises the question of, do we want to try to control society behavior, and to what purpose? In earlier days, in king's courts, the language specified proper etiquette, and all the norms of behavior were very carefully defined for those who wished to appear and converse with the king's court. In a common people's world, anything went, and frequently led to angry disputes and even fights for their perceived rights. How did we progress from this mayhem? By inaugurating laws to govern the behavior of all the people. Did this control and solidify the behavior of all of society? To most, but not all, and not in every case. We cannot control human behavior. So how does society evolve over time? Even with the best laws which man can devise, the answer is, it changes with what society will tolerate. With this set as a norm, we will find that we will have a mixture of all behaviors with a polarization of the extremes. Thank you for listening.